seeing what we can find on Inside Cosplay. Joining me this week is my very special guest, the one and only
Chocobobutt. Hello.
Hi, Chocobobutt. How are you today?
Pretty good. It's snowing in New York right now, but it's not sticking just yet.
Well, I can tell you that it probably will stick at some point because it's snowing here in the wonderful land of Scotland, and it is sticking. But we're not here to talk about the weather, we're here to talk about cosplay. So let's jump right in there and ask you, when did you first start cosplaying?
So I started it's going to be 10 years now.
Wow.
Which is, yeah, I know. I started in 2008. My first convention was actually New York Anime Fest, which doesn't even exist anymore. They got rid of it. What it was is they merged it with New York Comic Con, and it slowly disappeared to now where Crunchyroll sort of has a new version of it under a different name called New York Anime Con. I'm saying that. Anime New York City, sorry. There we go. So it's kind of back.
Well, it technically never really went away, did it?
Technically, but like if you look at the New York Comic Con badges, it used to say "and Anime Fest," but now it doesn't.
So, do you remember what your first cosplay was?
So I was my friend that first went to a con with me. We kind of thought we were going to go like I think a month before, and at the time I like had no costume, so I like really just quickly like threw together a costume. I ordered a silver wig and I did like a heartless Riku, but like with just wearing black clothes and a wig.
Okay, so my next question for you is, who or what inspired you to cosplay?
So I didn't know what it was until actually that year. I had some friends who went, but I thought they were like the conventions they went to, I thought it was more almost like a Dungeons and Dragons like LARPing type thing. I didn't know it was like anime or video games in particular, and when I found that out, I was like, oh wait, man, that's so much cooler because I love video games and I watch anime. So I was into that side of it before. I just wasn't into the costuming or really knew about it yet at that point. And one of the first people I've ever found online was Adela Cosplay. I don't know if you know her. She did like that Legend of Zelda project video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Is that the one that everybody mistook for it becoming
like a
live action film?
Yeah, that's what they planned.
Oh,
they wanted to actually make a movie, but it was going to be Legend of Zelda, but like not one of the games in particular, but like almost like their own game as story. They have the story posted. It was pretty good. It sounded pretty cool. They had some like original characters in it. But yeah, she was one of the first people I saw, and I was like, wow, she's gorgeous, because I saw her Aerith, and I was like huge Final Fantasy VII fan at the time, because this was 2008 still. And I was like, oh man, she's like a beautiful Aerith. Like, I want to be Aerith. And then I did Riku, so I don't know.
Well, it's kind of close. So this particular person that you're mentioning, does she still cosplay to this day? Or is it something that she's kind of stepped away from?
Every once in a while, I'll see a post from her. But I don't think she's as active as she used to be.
Okay.
She's definitely one of those like original cosplayers who you don't really see as much anymore now.
So what has been the most challenging cosplay that you've done to date, both from the making of a costume and the kind of acting side of the character? Because in cosplay there is always a little bit of acting involved, whether it be how a character might speak, or how they might move, or how they pose, or even just how they interact with people. So let's talk about the making of the costume first. So to date, who's been the most challenging cosplay that you've done?
So I'd say it's a tie between two costumes. Adelie from Space Dandy. She was like a one episode character that no one remembered. But she was like that entire costume, because it's weird because she has like this weird, almost like Toph from Avatar hair. But that it melts into like a face mask, and the face mask is attached to like her outfit. So I was like, how the heck do I make this? So I ended up making it one piece. Like the wig is attached to the costume. I put all of it on at once, and it is like ridiculous. And that was really, really hard to do, and also one of my first like full wig making experiences. And I would tie it with Luna and Nyx. Luna and Nyx are really complicated, and I was having many days where I was crying, and Distract was like, you can do this, and I was like, no, I can't. This is so hard.
I can totally sympathize with that, because I remember when I was making my Poison Ivy cosplay. And for anybody who's done gender-bent cosplays, you know they're not the easiest of things to do, because obviously you have to take a lot of different things into consideration. Essentially, if you're a guy cosplaying a female character or doing a gender-bent version, you're obviously minusing the female body and you're trying to shape it to a male body. And likewise, when you're a female doing a male character, you're shaping that to a male, from a male body to a female body.
Yeah.
And I was going mad trying to work out how much plantage I should put on the actual costume itself. And I was like, if I put too much plant on it, it's going to take away from the fact that my body is still there. You know, because the character of Poison Ivy obviously has to be quite skimpy and revealing. So I had to think, I still need to be somewhat skimpy and revealing, but still retain a masculine look.
Yeah, see, I've done a lot of gender bend costumes myself now, and I even made a post a while ago, like that, because one thing I noticed is a lot of people I've talked to that were like newer in cosplay and had done gender bends, they always were like, it's hard for me to do gender bends because I feel like I have to be sexy, and my thing was like, you know, like, because you're gender bending a character who has a personality and a particular look. And if that character themselves isn't skimpy, normally, you don't have to do it skimpy just because you're changing the gender. Because, like, my best example would be Ignis from Final Fantasy. Like, Ignis, like, even in the new DLC that came out, the Assassin's Creed one, he was so uncomfortable just showing a little bit of his chest in it. Like, there's a line where he's like, I'm not comfortable wearing this outfit. So to have him as a female, why, like, you shouldn't really, not you shouldn't, that's the wrong word. You don't have to show skin for him just because you're a female, because the character himself doesn't like showing his body off. So even if you're a female, it's still the same personality, so they wouldn't want to show themselves off either. So, like, I always take that into consideration when I do a gender bend. Like, how would this character be? Would they want to show skin just because they're a different gender? And if not, then I'm not going to do it.
Exactly. I think that's a really great piece of advice, is to think along the line of the character, you know. And while we're actually on about that, let's do the same question again and ask, who has been the most challenging character to date for you from an acting point of view?
I tend to pick more characters that are a little bit closer to my personality, just because it's easier that way. Like, I kind of like meld a little bit into some. Like, when I did Noctis, a lot of people were like, "You're like Noctis." I'm like, no, that's just me. I'm really tired. Like, I'm tired and grumpy, and I can act like a princess if I want to. Like, maybe I haven't really done many, like, angry characters, but, like, Adelie has a bit of a personality, like, that she's kind of like that tsundere type, and that's a little harder for me, because I love affection, so, like, pretending like I'm like, oh, I don't care about you, senpai, like, that's, like, not really my thing. So I guess any tsundere-esque character, like Asuka from Evangelion, that's not really, like, how I am, so that would be a little harder to be in character for.
Okay. So my next question for you is, in your opinion, what is the most challenging character or cosplay thing? And when I say thing, I mean like creature or whatever else you tend to run into at a Comic-Con convention, to either cosplay as, both from the making of the costume and the acting side, in regards to both yourself and what you would advise other people, maybe not necessarily not to do, but to really think about it before they attempted it. So let's do in regards to yourself. So what is something that you would seriously have to sit down and think about before you even attempted making one particular costume of?
The first thing I always do when I'm picking a character is actually look at their body type. And I know obviously no one's going to have the body type of a character, but I personally like, if someone's super, super tall, my first thing is, can I possibly wear them with lifts in my shoes? And if it's a character that, like, say I want it to be like someone from Naruto who's tall, I can't really put lifts in my shoes because they all have those ninja shoes that you wouldn't be able to put lifts in them. So, like, that kind of would be an example of, like, I can't really do it with this character kind of thing, and that could be an issue. Or I'll do, like, if it's a girl and it's, like, a skimpier female character, like, how big can I make my boobs look for this character? How much magic boobs do I need for this? Those are, like, some of the things.
Is that the technical term? Magic boobs?
Yes, magical boobs. Copyright Chocobobutt. But yeah, I'll look at more the physical parts of the character. And then I'll go more into, like, the crafting. Like, is this actually a possible costume to make? Like, are things on here that aren't possible at all in real life? And if they aren't possible, how could I fake it? Fake it and make it.
It's so funny that you should say that, because, like, I remember recreating an outfit that I'd done a while back and, like, updating it, and I was thinking, how am I going to do one particular aspect of it? You know, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to fake this. I'm just gonna have to completely fake it, you know, and it worked out really, really well because nobody really knew the difference.
Yeah, my usual, like, the spot that I usually get into where I'm like, nah, I'm gonna pick a different character, or, like, I might save this for a later time or something, is usually the hair. Because I can do wigs to an extent, but, like, when they start to get, like, the crazy wigs, I'm just like, can I feasibly do this wig and not have it look horrible? And usually the answer is no. So I'm like, alright, putting this one in the folder of probably will never do, but I still like this character.
I'll speak to you off camera about a cosplay that I'm not ready to announce yet, guys. Because it's still in my maybe pile. But I do need advice on that, and since you mentioned about wigs, it's the wig specifically that I need advice on. So I'll speak to you about that and we'll see what we can do. So let's talk about the same kind of idea again, but more from an acting standpoint. So what's a character that you would need to seriously sit down and give some serious thought to before actually possibly, like, attempting it or doing it? Let's kind of pretend that the costume's not an issue at the moment.
Yeah. I think the hardest part for me with acting is because usually, I mean, when you're walking around a con, you, like, sometimes you'll stay in character, but, like, especially if you're in the dealer's room or something, like, you're not really thinking about character that much. You're like, I want to buy all the shit, and, like, that's the only thing in your head. But, like, the acting for me more comes out when you're doing photos, because obviously you want to portray the character, so you gotta think, okay, like, what poses can I do that show off the character? And usually for me, the harder poses are angry ones. Like, I have a really hard time doing, like, an angry yelling face, but I think that's a lot of people. Like, yelling photos usually come out a little weird. with most. That's in my opinion. When I look at anyone who does like a scream or something in a photo, usually for me, I know they always look weird, but like I've noticed in other people, like those are usually the harder to get good photos of, or like scream photos or fighting ones, because either you like a lot of people look too stiff, and that's me included. I'm not like naming names. Like this is me included. Like I always feel like I don't look loose enough in a pose sometimes.
Hmm.
That's because I don't know how to fight, so I think that's a part of it. I've had sword props, and they're like, "Okay, strike a pose." I'm like, I don't know how to use a sword, so let's try and figure this out.
So would
So yeah,
you maybe recommend really researching
yeah,
like that particular character, like know how they would pose in that regard, and if it's like a character that you're not fully 100% on, but you have the opportunity of a costume, you might say like put that in a maybe pile. You know,
yeah.
go with somebody that you know.
I've only just started like actually giving photographers that like I plan ahead for, like obviously when you're on the fly like a haul shot, you're like, I'm not thinking of anything right now. But like the photographers I make plan shoots with, I've started giving them like ideas of like photos I'd like to recreate, which helps because then you have the actual photo to look at and be like, all right, so this is how they should look. But most of the time I'm always like con crunching away, so it's not in my head to do research, and then I end up not having the time to do it before the con, which is like, all right, let's think on the fly. That's definitely something I have to work on more.
So let's revisit this question again. So we're going back to the making of a costume. In your opinion, what is a cosplay character or thing that you would advise somebody else really research the kind of skills that you will need, the materials that you will need, and anything else when it comes to making of the costume slash props to a particular character? So what kind of character would you advise people really think about it before you attempt anything?
Um, like a particular character?
Well, any, like, if you have a particular character in mind, please do say so. A lot of people say to me, armored kind of
Yeah.
cosplays, like, those are ones that you really need to know what you're doing because
Yeah.
the materials are
See,
not cheap.
my advices for those would be sewn, like handmade sewn costumes. If you're a veteran in doing that, then like you got no problem. But if you're starting out, always like double check and triple check your seams, because the worst thing that could possibly happen would be it ripping off of you at the con. You don't want to like have something fall apart and then you show something you shouldn't show. Like say like your top fell apart and you have a character that has a weird outfit and maybe you didn't have a bra on for it because it wouldn't allow it or something, like that would be horrible. So if you're just starting sewing and you've like never sewn before, or like you've never taken classes or anything, definitely just constantly putting it on and taking it off, like every step of the way. Just make sure it's not gonna rip off. That's my number one with that, and that's what I'm always doing. Like I'll basically sew in like my underwear, and then I'll put everything on, because that's the biggest hint on if my skin's gonna show, is if I have nothing on when I'm trying it. And then with armors, I feel like some people will like spend a lot of time on the craftsmanship of the armor, and not everyone puts as much effort into the paint job. I've seen, don't get me wrong, I've seen amazing paint jobs, but like sometimes I feel like some people rush on the paint, and like I would take your time, because paint can sometimes make or break something. Like if you put a bad paint job on a beautiful prop, it doesn't look as beautiful anymore, and you spent so much time making the prop, you want it to look good, you know? So,
As an artist, I can appreciate, and I can definitely back that up, you know.
yeah,
Painting might seem like the last thing on your mind when you're making an armor piece or a prop piece, but like Chocobobutt is saying here, you know, a good paint job can make or break a costume when people are looking at it.
Yeah, and I've made props where I wasn't too happy with it, but I've saved them with the paint job. So sometimes it could even do that. Like sometimes it'll make your prop look better than you think it looks anyway. Um, what else was I gonna say? There was something else I was gonna say. Oh, and double before you like put anything on a final coat when you're making armor or props. Double check on a blank piece of the material that when you seal it, it's not going to dissolve.
Good advice there.
So, example like insulation foam. Like, make sure if you're going to put sealant on it that it won't ruin the prop. Or if you're doing, because I made a ball and chain out of styrofoam, and I thought I had put another layers of gesso on it to harden it so that the sealer wouldn't seep through, but it did seep through a little bit. I still used it, but it did seep through. So definitely get like maybe a little scrap of material and just test it out first. So you're not ruining what you just made.
Any good artist will tell you that you should always have a tester piece of material or paper just to make sure that the paint that you're going to use is going to end up the color that you want. And obviously, if you're testing it on material, it's the same colour that you want and that it doesn't just immediately rub off of the material as well.
Yeah. Also, priming saves lives.
Yes, yes, it does indeed. So, from an acting standpoint, what is a kind of character or cosplay creature that you would advise people really think about it before doing it?
I'd say anyone who is more of a, like, I don't know what better word to use than, like, I guess, the psychotic characters. Okay. Definitely, like, because I've met a lot of people who've done, like, certain characters where, like, they come off too creepy, not in the sense of, like, oh, you're doing the character creepy, but more like, now you're just a little creepy in general. So, like, research, like, how far you should go so that you're not going too far and actually making people uncomfortable. I feel like that type of character is probably the one that, like, most of the time, like, goes a little too far to the point where people are like, okay, I'm gonna walk away now. When obviously, you know, that's not what you're wanting.
No.
Yeah, so... Oh, hold on one second.
Okay.
The dog
will be right back, guys. Okay. And we're back. So, yeah, checking over things... So the question I'm kind of posing to you is, in regards to other people and on the acting side of things, what is a kind of cosplay character or creature that you would advise them really either research it or think about it before you do it? You were kind of mentioning about how people can be overly creepy sometimes when it's not really their intent.
Yeah.
You know, coming off that way.
That's more like the characters, like, say you're being, like, a demon or, like... some what is it? Is it yandere when they're like the psycho ones in anime, right? Yeah. Say like something like that. Like it's awesome for photos, like for when you're posing for something and you can pull out the creepiness. That's awesome. But when you're going around walking and like talking to people and being really creepy, it makes people uncomfortable. Like I've had people get too much into their character and like have followed me and like creeped me out before. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go like hide in a bathroom or something. Or I'll be like, oh, I know that person, let me like just hang out with them for a little bit because I'm creeped out.
So my next question for you is an interesting one. We have two types of Comic-Cons that we can go to throughout the year. There's the big once-a-year ones, and the smaller, more local ones, which will happen every 2 to 3 months. You know.
Are they different, or is it the same con?
Oh, it would be like different cons. Like you've got your big once-a-year ones, which are like your New York City Comic-Con or your San Diego Comic-Con, and then you've got your smaller, more local ones that are within your like local town. Yeah. Which out of the two do you prefer going to? Do you prefer the big once-a-year ones or the smaller, more local ones? Or do you like a
Yeah.
blend of the two?
I like both because I feel like you're always gonna see new things at each one. Like a local
Mm-hmm.
one, I love going into the artist alley. Like that's usually one of my first stops. So I prefer like local cons more for artist alleys,
Mm-hmm.
because you'll have different artists than the big ones. The big ones usually have at least a couple of like return artists to the point where like, okay, I saw these guys like last year, like they're same. It's like they have like five new things. So like the bigger cons, I prefer going into like the dealer's room for, and the bigger ones, like you get to, usually the bigger ones anyway, you get to see like so much more like extravagant things because everyone's like, these are the big cons that people are getting ready for, and smaller ones are usually like tester cons,
Mm-hmm.
where every once in a while you'll see like something really gorgeous, because they're testing it out to see how they'll run it for a bigger con.
I totally get that because I actually like a blend of the two as well because I get the opportunity at a small con to really mingle with people and get to know them and chat. Where when I'm at a bigger con, I tend to think that it suffers from what I like to call a New York minute.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah?
It's so hard to see people at
Yeah.
the bigger cons like New York New York no, Anime NYC, sorry. That we just went to.
Mm-hmm.
We did see a, cuz it's in a big spot, but it's a little bit smaller cuz it was their first year but still pretty crowded. It's the same spot that New York Comic Con's at.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like crowded enough where we had a hard time seeing some people. And when we went to New York Comic Con this year, like we had plans with people we were supposed to see. We never saw them. I was like, I didn't even see like you far away. Like I had no idea what you were even dressed as. I didn't see you. But at the smaller ones, like you pretty much hang out with your friends the entire time because they're usually so small that like, what else are you gonna do? You see the whole con in like maybe the first day, and then you just hang out with friends for the rest of it because it's smaller.
The bigger cons always suffer from, like I said, the New York minute for me when it's like you bump into a friend of yours, you get a second to speak to them, and that conversation goes along the lines of, "Hi, love the costume, bye."
Yep.
Because either they're going off to a photo shoot, or you're going off to a photo shoot, or your attention is being called somewhere else, or you're needed to do something else, and it's insane,
Yeah.
Um,
Like, I'm excited for KatsuCon in February, but I also know it's going to be the same thing where it's like, hey guys, like your costume, bye! Like,
but at the bigger cons, I like them because you get the opportunity to meet like the bigger celebrities, like the TV and movie stars and such
Yeah.
likes. It's not to say that a smaller con can't have them. It's just that they're more liable to get a local celebrity to come along to that.
yeah, I
Because
like
they
that
are smaller.
you meet more, I feel like you meet more people at the bigger cons too, just in general. Like, you'll make new cosplay friends at the bigger cons because there's a bigger variety of people, you don't know as many. So when you see someone and you're like, oh, I like your costume, and you start a conversation, you're like, oh, now I got a new friend. Like,
Absolutely. So my next question for you is, when you are at a cosplay event, which can be a Comic-Con or just general cosplay event, what is the one thing that you're most excited for, and also what is the one thing that you used to, or still kind of do on some level, find the most nerve-wracking? So let's talk about the one thing that you're most excited for when you're at an event for cosplay.
so usually when I go to a con, like, my to-do list is like artist alley and see friends.
Okay?
Like, after that would probably be like get some photos done, because I'm one of those people who tends not to wear the same costume, which is makes it more ridiculous for me because I'm spending more money, because I'm always like, I want a new costume, I'm bored of this one, and they're like, Choco, you wore that once. I know, I still want a new one. Like, but so I always want to get like at least one photo, like a nice photo done, so I can be like, I have a memory now of this con. But definitely seeing like the artist and dealer's room, even if I don't plan on buying anything at that particular con, I would like to go look. And then seeing friends.
And what is the one thing that you used to or still kind of do on some level find the most nerve-wracking about doing these events?
So when I first started, I tried to do costume contests, and I like have since been like, no, never mind, because it always makes me really nervous. Like I get too antsy, and I'm like, oh, they're not gonna like it, and I feel like I like ruin my chances just by my attitude. But I'm gonna start trying to do it again. I did it at the last con I went to, but it was one of those like, we're not actually gonna really judge on craftsmanship kind of cons, and it was just a mess. And I was left very kind of angry at the con, and I don't want to go back now because it was one of those like, it had rules where it was like every bought piece gave like lowered your score because the rules were gonna be based off craftsmanship. But then I was like, I made my entire costume, even the shoes, and people who wrote down that they bought everything and the announcer said that they bought everything got prizes. So I was like, what's going on here? So I was like, I don't want to go back to this con.
So I'll tell you a funny story about doing cosplay competitions. They're called masquerades over here, but
oh, can I interrupt for 1 second? Yeah. I don't mean that there's anything wrong with buying a costume either. Like half of mine are bought. It's more my pet peeve when it's a craftsmanship contest and they don't ignore the craftsmanship. Because if it's not craftsmanship, like just name it name it a different kind of contest. Do like I don't know, like just don't put craftsmanship contest in the name if you're not going to judge on it. That's what more bothers me. It's not actually people buying costumes, because I've seen beautiful bought costumes and I have some beautiful bought costumes. So I'm all for that.
So in terms of doing something on, like going into a competition cosplay kind of thing, I've pretty much entered almost every single one from a con that I've went to. I missed out on one because we didn't get there in time to sign up, which kind of rubbed me the wrong way. You know, I was like, well, we did kind of get here on time, but we had to change.
Yeah.
You know? Can you just let us sign in? And they're like, no. And I was like, rude teller person, you deserve a smack. But the first time I ever did a cosplay masquerade, I got asked, do you want to speak on stage? And I said no. You know, I wasn't ready to do a Harley Quinn on stage, you know, in front of people. And
she's kind of harder because she has that like distinctive voice. So like if you're gonna speak as her, you gotta kind of do it. And like if you're not good with accents, it's hard. Yeah.
At the time that I did it, we didn't have Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn.
Oh, okay.
So it was just the Arlene Sorkin style, and I was like, I cannot find a way to like make my voice like hers, or like a male version of that. I find it very, very difficult, because the only thing I had to go on was what the people from the Jersey Shore sounded like. So I'm like, because I knew that Arlene Sorkin was using a very thick New Jersey accent for that character, I was like, I can either do it like her and sound really, really weird, or I can do it like one of the guys from the Jersey Shore and sound equally as weird. There's no place in between.
Yeah.
So I just decided not to do a voice, and I was like, that's fine, no problem. So I went up, I did the poses, came off, and that was it. I didn't win anything, but I liked being in the actual competition itself. So when I did Poison Ivy the following year, I was like, okay, I am going to enter this. I'm going to do a speaking part. And I just lifted an excerpt out of the movie Batman and Robin, which I know everybody hates. You know, but hey, it had Poison Ivy in it, and I was using it for reference, so...
That's the one with with Arnold Freeze, right?
Yes.
I love that one.
Shh. Everybody hates that one.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is best Dr. Freeze.
So I took a little excerpt from that film and I performed it on stage. But do you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to pose for the judges. I just did the excerpt, dropped the mic, and walked off. And as I'm walking up to my cousin, who's sitting up in the kind of like seats watching the show, I walked up and I'm kind of walking up the stairs and I'm like, I forgot to do something. And I was like, I can't remember what it was I was supposed to do. And it didn't dawn on me until the following day. I didn't pose. So, small piece of advice when you're doing events or competitions, guys, make sure you pose.
Yeah. I feel like for most people, because I feel like most people have like at least a small amount of stage fright in them, that once like you have it all planned in your head and you're like repeating it while you're backstage, and then as soon as you get on the stage, somehow it like zaps your mind and you completely forget everything. You're just like, okay, people are looking at me, there's lights on me, what the hell was I gonna do again? Like,
I think that's where the adrenaline starts to kick in, because I'm very fortunate that I've had theatre training. I've worked on the stage before. So when the lights are on me, it doesn't faze me. But I can understand that from the point of view for somebody who doesn't have that kind of background, and it is scary when you think about it. But as soon as you get on that stage, and if you're on that stage with a friend, it's so much easier.
Yeah.
So there's a recommendation: if you're ever going to perform on stage for a cosplay masquerade or competition, try and do it with a friend, because they will egg you on. Yeah.
I've entered in groups, and the groups are so much more easier because you're like, all right, we're all going up, and if we're all gonna be idiots, we'll be them together. So it's definitely easier in groups. I don't really do, like, I've never done a skit. Just because I'll have ideas and then I'll be like, I don't know if we can like actually practice it, because skits usually are at least two people. It's very rare you see like a solo skit, because those are usually like a dance type thing when it's just one person. At least here, that's usually what they are. So like it's usually really hard to like coordinate with the person. Like everyone's got different time schedules, so I've never really done a masquerade skit. I've just done like the walk-ons, which usually you don't really have to do much besides just walk on and then pose and then walk off. So that's usually my experience with contests.
Okay. You mentioned there that you've been in part of groups when you've done the competitions and such likes. Have you ever won anything as part of a group, or even solo, when you went up and done the competitions? And if so, what was running through your head when you got called up?
I've never won anything solo. I only just won something as a group. Excuse me. When was it? September, I think it was. It was at Imbion, which is a more local con, and it was the first official convention me and Distract went together.
Is this
as
the
a
one
couple
where
team?
you guys were dressed up as characters from Final Fantasy?
As Final Fantasy? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I was Chocobo, Carnival, Noctis, he was Gladio, we had a Core, a Prompto, and Ignis. So we had, like, pretty much almost everybody. And we entered together, and we actually won the group contest, because we all had props that Distract had made. I had made a couple of the costumes myself, and other people had done parts of their costumes, so everything was pretty much almost made entirely by at least someone in the group. So it was like a mixture of handmade costumes plus props, and decent wigs. So we kind of were like, I think we got this. That was like the one time I was ever confident in a cosplay contest. I was like, I think we got this.
So what exactly kind of like popped through your head when they called you up? Was it like complete shock, or were you like, totally, yeah, we won it?
I was like, yeah. Good. I was pretty happy, especially to be the first contest that the first contest and con me and Distract entered together to have won as a group. Like, was really like, this is awesome. Like, it was like icing on the cake.
So, and I'm not trying to insult, but given that you've done cosplay for about 10 years now, would you ever want to go into the judging side of things, or have you been offered the opportunity to go into the judging side of things?
I actually judged once. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, maybe a little longer. It was at a local con, a very small one. And it was actually through some friends were like the ones who got me to be able to do the judging. And we did it fully on craftsmanship. We were like, we're gonna do full craftsmanship. Even before the entries came in, we were like, if anyone comes in with like handmade gloves or something, like, they win. I don't care, they win. Like, the hardest thing to do. If you come in like with this part made, you won. I don't care.
So I'm just going to ask you very honestly. I've had friends in the past who have judged competitions, and they've always said to me it is so extremely hard. You know, like, because one of my friends, she wants to give everybody a prize.
Yeah.
Yeah, because everybody's costume has one particular part that she likes so much. Or there's like people who she just sees and she's like, I don't care that that's a store-bought costume or a bought costume, I just want to give you a prize because you look amazing. Do you have a similar kind of mindset when it comes to judging, or do you just kind of say, right, I'm here to do a job, let me look at the costume kind of thing?
It's a little bit of both with me, because like, I'll be like, before the person comes in, because the one time I judged, we had pre-judging to the contest, so we got to like kind of talk to the person, but before they would like walk in through the doors, I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna judge, like, you know, like actual judge on like technical stuff, and then they'd walk in and they'd be like an absolute sweetheart, and I'm like, oh my god, I want to hug you, like, I want you to win something because you're just like so adorable and like precious. But I'd be like, I still have to keep in mind I'm a judge, so I'm like, I can't give out awards just because you're like an adorable cuteness thing, like. So it's like it's hard, because if you do that kind of judging, like, I feel like it's a little easier when there's no prejudging, because it's just, you got that one like walk on, maybe say what you did, and that's it, so there's no like time for a connection to kind of be like, oh, but you're so cute, like. But when you do a prejudging, I feel like it's a little bit harder, because you have a longer time to look at everyone. It's usually about like 5 or so minutes you get to actually look at the costume, and you can get up and actually examine it, and you get to see like the like spark in people's faces when they're talking about how they made something, or like how they got to have this costume done. And it makes you like really happy, and then you're like, but I can't get everyone an award, and you feel bad.
I totally understand that. I've never been asked to judge myself, but if I ever get the opportunity, it would be something that I'd have to seriously consider, because I like talking to people myself, so I would need to do the part where I get to speak to them, see how they made the costume, and then mark them for that. But I would be so thankful that there would be possibly either one other judge or 2 other judges with me, because I would freak out if there wasn't. Like, I don't think I could judge anything solo. Yeah?
Yeah, I like, when I was in the judging table, I felt like the Paula Abdul of the group. Like, I was like the one that was like, I love everybody. Like, everyone's fantastic, and like the other ones were like, yeah, but this one has a really good costume. I was like, yeah, they really do, but like, I love everybody. Like, so I don't think I could ever do judging by myself in a contest. I would definitely have to have at least one other person with me, because I don't know how I'd come to an answer if it was by myself.
So my next question for you is, Actually, just going to need to read my question here. Okay, in your opinion, what are the best things the best and worst things that a new cosplayer can do when they're getting ready to go to an event? So let's talk about 3 of the best things that they can do when they're prepping to go to an event. So what would be the first thing in your opinion?
My rule of thumb is even if you're not going too far, the night before, make a list, like before you even start packing at all. Make a list of every piece of your costume and everything you need, and like triple check that you have it set up. Because when I first started, I didn't used to do that, and I would like forget something. Like one time I forgot a wig for a costume, and then I ended up not wearing the costume because I didn't have the wig and I didn't want to go out without the wig. So definitely that would be my number one, would be make a list of what you need and make sure you have it and that everything is working just in case you need to do a last minute touch up on something. Like say you're like, oh, these shoes are uncomfortable. Maybe I should bring bandages. Bring the bandages! Believe me, uncomfortable shoes are horrible. Next would be, don't really stress out too much. If your costume's not completely done, or like, say you're not like happy with it, like, someone's bound to come up to you and be like, I love your costume. Someone's always gonna say that. And they're not gonna say it just because they want to, like, just cause. Like, they're gonna say it because they genuinely like your costume. So someone's bound to like it even if you don't, so have fun with it.
Definitely.
And then next I guess if it's your first con, you're probably going to be a little bit shy, but maybe, and I know some people have like super anxiety where this is probably asking way too much, but just try and say hi to at least one person, because you never know, you could make like one of your best new friends just from saying hi to maybe one person at a con. Try and at least make a friend with one.
I'm just going to add in there, when you're going to a Comic-Con event, especially if you're underage, make sure to tell somebody where you're going.
Yes, that too.
And if you are underage, again, don't throw away the idea of not going in a group. Like, ask a couple of friends if they want to go with you, or your best friend if they want to go with you, or your brother, or your sister, or whoever. One of the things that we're going to hopefully be talking about in a second is there are multiple different age groups that go to Comic-Cons. I've seen grannies and granddads going to Comic-Cons in cosplay. I've seen babies who are
sometimes they're amazing too.
Yeah, I've seen babies who are only months old, in cosplay at Comic-Con events. I had to admit, I was slightly questioning the parenting there, but, each to their own. Totally not my place to comment, because granted, if I could take my little nephew to a Comic-Con event, I would have him on my arm as an accessory. I
mean, if I ever have a kid and it's a boy, don't get me wrong, I'm going to dress up as Kushina and my husband's going to be Minato. We're going to have a baby Naruto at a con. Like, not even second guessing it. Like, I would totally do that too.
So, what are 3 of the worst things that a new person can do when they're going to a cosplay event?
A lot of things I notice a lot of new cosplayers don't do. When you're like first, like the wigs, they don't have to be a thing, but like, like a wig sometimes makes a costume look better. So maybe like try and put a wig, and if you like can't afford it, I understand. But if you wear a wig as your first costume, wear a wig cap. Please wear a wig cap. Your wig is gonna fall off in like the weirdest ways if you don't wear one. Like wear a wig cap and like put at least 1 or 2 bobby pins. You don't have to go crazy. Yeah. That wouldn't be my number one, but that's something I would do for a new person. Also, as a new person, I would say definitely at least go with one person. That way you have a friend, you have someone to talk to. You'll have more fun because you won't be like, I guess I'll just walk around because I have no one else with me. Um, like my first maybe 6 cons I went to, I had someone with me.
Hmm.
Or I at least met someone at the con. Like I would be like, all right, we can't travel together, but we'll meet at this spot, and then I hung out with them the whole time. It's definitely much more fun than solo. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people who have gone by themselves that had a shit ton of fun,
Like me.
but that's I've had fun more with people than by myself. D-Strack's a different story, apparently.
Yeah. One of the things I would always advise for things not to do when at a con, don't pick a particular cosplay and then, like, say a summer cosplay, and then do it in the dead of winter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
'cause you will get cold.
yeah, I think everyone, I pretty much can, I think I can say everyone has done that before. I'm even a culprit. I mean, at least the thing is, if you're gonna do that, try and stay in the convention center at least.
Yeah.
Don't really go out, and like bring at least like some kind of thing to cover up when you're gonna leave.
I will tell you this. When I did my male poison ivy, I did it in the middle of August in the UK. Now, I don't know what it's like in New York, because you were mentioning how it's snowing for you but not sticking, and I was telling you it's snowing for me and actually sticking. August is not a warm time of the year for the UK.
Yeah,
It's a very, very cold time of year.
when I was in high school, I actually went as a Make-A-Wish to Scotland, and it was in August, and we were in like sweaters the whole time. I was like, this is so cold, but I kind of like it.
So my poison ivy outfit consisted of a ripped up vest with ivy coming all out of it, and then a pair of shorts and sandals. So you can imagine just how cold I was. I was
Yeah.
literally running up to people, not giving two craps about the ivy getting broken or anything, and just hugging them and being like, I'm so cold. Please hug me.
Yeah, I would. For that, I would definitely recommend, like, because I've done that too. I did a photo shoot as Kagome from Inuyasha in snow, and
Yeah, so you know exactly how I
yes,
felt.
it makes perfect sense, right? But what I did was I had my jacket with me and like a pair of like sweatpants that like when we were like setting up, I would have on the side so I could like change into if it was taking too long to set up. So I would at least be warm and then take it off when I was ready.
Mm-hmm.
So like have something where you can like put some way to warm it up.
I'll tell you,
I got no tips for if it's the summer and you're wearing fur. I got nothing there.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
good luck.
that's-
Don't die.
if you're
Drink water.
if you're wearing summer, like if it's during the summer and you're wearing something that's like a heavy costume, definitely make sure that you have plenty of water with you.
Yeah.
Or if you're doing an armored cosplay, make sure you have plenty of water with you, because I've seen people wearing Iron Man suits that are like the mech suits, and they literally almost died of dehydration. So make sure you're hydrated, guys.
Yeah, especially if you're doing like if you have a suit of like Warbler or like
Handlers.
something like that, like then that's not fabric. It doesn't breathe. So if it's
Definitely.
fully covering your body, you're gonna sweat in those spots it's covering. You need water. The best bet with that, and this is with any kind of costume that starts to get a little bit extravagant, is have some kind of friend who's gonna stay near you who maybe can help you out. Or
Definitely.
someone who could like sort of be a handler, but like not have to be your exact handler and like stay on you hand and foot, but something to help you out.
Two costumes come to mind for me for that. If you're wearing a Iron Man outfit, that's like an actual mech suit almost, you definitely need a handler. There's no two
Yeah.
ways about it, because your movement is extremely restricted, and you will need somebody to help you. Just period.
Yeah.
Another costume which you might kind of like go, what? Is the Wookiees from Star Wars. Now, I personally know a guy who has done a Wookiee from Star Wars, but it's like an extremely tall one.
Mm-hmm.
And what he's actually done is taught himself how to walk in stilts while wearing the costume. So there's no two ways about it. He needs somebody that can like carry his stuff and attend to him and help him wear him when he needs it.
Yeah.
So
I
always keep that kind of thing in mind, guys, for doing
I've
those types
had-
of costumes.
Yeah, I've had a few costumes where I needed handlers. Something you might not think about is if you have wings, you'll need a handler of some kind of friend with you if you have wings. When I did Pixie from X-Men, like I was constantly like trying to hold them, and they're on your back, so there's only so far you can reach back to kind of push your wings out of the way. So if you have a friend helping you, that's fantastic, so that you're not hitting people and your wings aren't getting destroyed either, because that's something else that'll happen. And for some reason, when you have wings, people don't care and will purposely walk into you. Like, I don't understand that. It's happened before. I don't know.
Weird.
People, I guess, maybe have tunnel vision when they see someone with wings. Also, if you have any kind of thing blocking your eyesight or making it a little harder to see, like if you have contacts on, maybe even some of those, like the white ones, I think, and the black ones usually is what I've heard, make it kind of hard to see. So if you have that, or like maybe you're doing like say near where you have to have like the cloak over your eye, like something like that, have someone walking with you, because you never know, like maybe there's like some kinds they'll have like the carpet and they'll have wires under the carpet, like you could trip over that if you have some kind of thing going on where it's like making your eyesight not as good. Armor again. Luna, Distract helps me when I'm dressed as Luna because I made my train extra long. So it like people are stepping on it, so he'll sometimes help me hold it up. When he was dressed as Guts, I was like one of his handlers that had, he couldn't walk like very far, or well, he could walk far, but he couldn't walk very fast in that. So like he needed handlers for that one.
I can appreciate that. I haven't done a costume yet where I've needed a handler, but my Poison Ivy one came very, very close because my movement was really rather restricted and I had to stop and adjust every so often. So while I don't
also
have
the best thing, sorry, the best thing is a friend who is with you who will tell you when like your wig is shifting or stuff like that. I have some friends who will be like, "Yo, let me fix this," and I'm like, "Please, thank you, thank you so much," because you can't see how you look, so you can't. I mean, you can sometimes feel it if it's a wig, but like if something on your costume and you're not looking down is like shifted and like someone else notices, like first of all, don't do it without asking, but like just ask them and be like, "Can I fix your costume really quick?" And like I'm sure everyone will more than likely be like, "This, yes, thank you," or they'll fix it themselves, but still thank you for noticing and not letting them walk around with something like completely wrong.
So my next question for you is to do with age differences. So we kind of slightly touched on it, that you do see a multitude of different people at Comic-Con events. You have your really young children to your really old grandparents. When I first started in Comic-Con, or like knew that I was going to a Comic-Con, I didn't necessarily know what kind of age group that I was going to be getting. So when I started doing research, I seen some families did it, but it really did look as if it was just mum, dad, children, picture on banister off to a costume party. You know, it just felt as if they were dressing up. It didn't feel as if they were cosplaying as such. And when I started looking into it more and more Comic-Con events, I realised that there seemed to be an age bracket. And that age bracket was early to mid-teenagers to mid-30s. And I thought, that is fine. I fit that age bracket. I can go to an event, and if that is the age bracket, I can go up to somebody and say, "Comic book?" And they can say comic book back to me, and I'll be like, "Comic book." You know,
That's gonna be my new way of making friends. I'm just gonna say comic book to people.
But when I went to a Comic-Con event, or my first Comic-Con event, I noticed there was such a wide range of varying age groups there. And I was so relieved at that, because I was like, oh, well, there are very young children here that are cosplaying. There are very old people here who are cosplaying. When you first went to your event, or maybe just a little bit before, did you have a similar notion of what kind of age groups that you'd be coming up against or bumping into even?
When I started, I feel like at my first few cons, I noticed people were a little bit younger, but also that's kind of who I was hanging out with, so I wasn't really paying attention to it. And I feel like for the most part, some of the cosplay brackets have kind of grown also with how I've gotten older. Like a lot of the people I know are around my age range now. Like I don't really know that many young cosplayers now. I see a lot at cons, but I feel like more of the people I see now are now in their 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Like early to late 20s.
Awesome.
I see that a lot, and I started seeing a lot more of maybe 30s to 40s now too. I don't really see as many kind of grandparents anymore, but I don't know if that's the area, maybe just there's not many in this area. But I feel like for what I've seen, most of the bigger age group, I feel would be mid 20s to maybe early 30s. I feel is where a lot of cosplayers fall into now.
Awesome. Now, when we're talking about age differences and such let's talk about age within cosplay itself. A lot of people here in the UK are massive fans of Doctor Who, because country of origin and all that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to a Comic-Con event, we always get Doctor Who actors there, and some people say, right, because this actor is going to be here, I'm going to dress up like the Doctor from that Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And sometimes when they're doing the older Doctor Who's, they're using their age to their advantage. Mm-hmm. So let's say we have somebody who's in their 50s and they do the Doctor from their
the first
generation.
Doctor. Yeah.
Which could be the 10th or the 4th or whatever Doctor, Is that something that you tend to take into consideration when you're doing a cosplay? Do you think, well, I'm the same age as this character, so I can cosplay this character, or do you just kind of throw the age thing out the window and go, I'm just going to do this character because I like this character?
I have a thing called a baby face, so I could get away and because I'm also pretty damn short, I can kind of get away with doing younger characters than I am. Obviously, I'm not going to do a child character, but I can still do characters who would be in high school type age group and get away with it. Because of that, I actually have a harder time doing older characters because of the baby face, so it's I don't really look mature when I do them. So I kind of stay away from characters maybe closer to my age, because I can't pull off that mature look really well. It's very hard for me to do that. But also going back to fans of older series, I also think it depends on the convention you're at. If you're at a Comic-Con, I feel there's a lot of older people there, because comics have been around for such a long time that I feel Comic-Cons in particular have the older crowd, and if you go to an anime convention, you're going to have the younger crowd. Definitely. So I think it depends on the con and who the guests are also. And I feel the ones that are the kind of everybody would be the ones that don't really have a particular this is an anime con, this is a comic. I think Kineticon, for instance, Kineticon is just a convention. They have some steampunk there, they have some sci-fi, they got some anime going on, so it's a little bit of everything. So you see every age range at that one.
Awesome. So my next question, and this is where we get to rub our hands and go is to do with props. Now, props fall into a multitude of categories for me, but the first thing that we're going to tackle is it goes to a convention versus it goes to a photo shoot that is not at a convention. And then they fall into 3 subcategories. 1, oh my god, this prop is large, it's going to break my back and I have no idea how to transport it.
Typical.
This prop is a moderate size and I'm okay carrying it around, but after 7 hours it's going to annoy me.
That's me, like, with anything in my hands.
And then the last part of that is, oh my god, this prop is nice and small, it goes into my pocket, my bag, and I'm good to go. So out of those 3, which are you most likely to take to a convention, obviously depending on what type of cosplay you're doing?
For the most part, I haven't really done, like, a big prop costume, like one that needed it, so I probably tend to stay in, like, the medium, but I definitely fall into the category of, like, I've been holding this for 5 minutes, I'm already done with it type thing. Like, I like having props, but at the same time, I'm one of those people that, like, hate holding something. So I'll be like, alright, I don't want to hold this. Like, I'm done with the photo, I throw it away. Like, I'm one of those people, so I guess I'd fall into, like, the middle category. The only time I really have, like, small ones is, like, I did, like, Ash from Pokemon, so I had, like, plushies with me. So I guess that would consider, like, a small one.
Small to medium.
Yeah, or, like, I did Hinata from Naruto, so I had the kunai, so, like, that's a small. But, like, a lot of my costumes, like, I actually, most of the time, unless it's, like, a big deal with them, I actually kind of avoid the props. Because I always feel like I'm making them too delicate, and I get worried with them. I only just started really using, like, plastics, which make them sturdier. So, like, I feel a little bit more comfortable now doing them. But I'm not too big with props. Like, I've made the biggest one I made was I don't know if you know Disgaea, that video game, but they have, like, ridiculous weapons in it, and I made, like, a broadsword, which was, I think, my height, or a little bit smaller than me, so that's, like, the biggest I went. But I was at a booth when I wore that costume, so I kind of, like, just would drop it when I didn't have a photo, so I wasn't, like, really holding it, so that's how I dealt with that one.
And that kind of brings us on to the next part of the props question. Now, there are multiple things that we can do with props, but my question for you is, when it comes to making props, do you A, make them from scratch, B, buy them in kind of somewhat ready-made and then customize them to the final product, or C, just buy them in and they're good to go? Or do you do something like all 3?
I think I've only ever bought, like, maybe 4 props before. I bought some keyblades, and then, like, the kunai for Hinata. Everything else I've always made.
Okay.
Because, like, most of the time, if I need a prop, it's one of those, like, they don't really make these. You gotta kind of make it yourself type characters. So I'll usually just do them from scratch.
So on average, how long does it take you to make a prop from scratch?
So costumes, I've, like, made a costume in a day before. Props take me forever.
I totally understand that. Totally understand it. Do you have a similar creation process to me? Like, you start talking to this prop, even though it's like a complete inanimate object, you're like, why are you not working? Why are you not turning out the way I wanted you to?
That's me with costumes more. I'll get to the point where I'll be sewing and I'm like, why can't you sew yourself? Like, that's me with the costumes. With the props, it's more like I just want to finish making it so that I could get to the painting, because the painting's always my favorite part. So I'm just like, how quickly can I make this so I can just paint this? I just want to paint it. Like, that's all I want to do. Like,
I'm the opposite way. I talk to my props, and my costumes just magically make themselves. You know, I'll actually, I I don't know whether you guys can see it, but over there on my bookcase, you can just slightly see, if I can move my finger in the direction of it, there's a little kind of like Jack-in-the-Box. I made that from scratch, and when I was making it, I was kind of like screaming at a polystyrene ball, going, "Why won't you look like a face? You know, how can you not look like a face?" And I started screaming at the box because like parts of it weren't sticking together, and I'm like, "Stick, damn you, stick!"
I think the only the only prop I ever really talked to was when I was making Gym Leader Sabrina. I was like, all right, no one's gonna know I'm Gym Leader Sabrina. Like, unless you're like a big diehard fan, I feel like you wouldn't recognize her like instantly. You'd have to like kind of like look at it a bit and be like, oh, that's Sabrina. So I was like, I need a prop. And at first I was gonna be like, maybe I could get like an Abra plush. I was like, yeah, but they're so tiny and they wouldn't be like the correct size. So I was like, okay, what if I made Haunter? So I ended up making a Haunter puppet. And he floated and he had invisible strings, so he looked like he was like floating, and like I made him like an actual puppet so I could like have him like kind of act in my hands. But he was a Pepakura Haunter. And that was my first time doing Pepakura, and I like started with the mouth first because that was the easiest, and then I did the eyes, and I was just like, can you please finish yourself, like, because the spikes in the back of him were very hard to attach, because by the time you do the spikes, the rest of the body is pretty much finished, so you can't really like attach them how you would the other parts, where you could be like pressing it on the other side, because there was nowhere to put your hand besides just like, all right, let's go like that. So it was hard. So I was talking to that puppet a lot. And I think it helped that it had a face.
I totally understand that. Because similar process with that Jack-in-the-Box.
Yeah, I feel like it helps if the prop has like some kind of face to it.
And you can scream
probably
at the
more
face.
likely to talk to it.
Yep. So, my next question for you is, what opportunities has cosplay opened up for you away from being in costume?
Well, I haven't gotten any like really like financial ones, but it's more like more like meeting people. Like, there's so many people in my life who I would never have met without cosplay, like Distract, who's currently hitting my foot. He's like, mention me.
Oh, we got together.
Yeah, we got together through cosplay, because I think if I recall, he followed my Instagram, and then I looked at his, and then I messaged him, and I was like, I like your cosplays. And then and then it spiraled.
Even my.
So I definitely wouldn't be where I am now as a person, because I wouldn't have met so many people who are dear to me in my life right now. So it's definitely like I think that's why I keep doing it, because it's such a big part of me at this point.
Okay. So my next question for you, and we're kind of starting to wrap up now. So, who are your next 3 cosplays? So to break it down, who you're going to be at your next event, somebody that you're working on for the event after that, and somebody who we will see maybe either mid to late 2018. So let's start with who you're going to be at your next event.
So my next con is KatsuCon, which is in February, and I was actually last night like making my lineup. And besides Kingsglaive Luna, all the costumes on it are going to be new ones that I have to make. So there's a few. There's Luna's wedding dress, making some kigurumis for Final Fantasy. I'm going to try and do Tiger from Juni Taisen, which is that new anime that's pretty damn epic. I love that anime. And I have like a surprise one, and then I was thinking of maybe putting someone from World of Final Fantasy. I'm not sure yet. Yeah, have you played that game?
I've played the demo for it and I really love it. And every time I go into a game store, I'm kind of looking for it, and I've never had the opportunity to buy it yet.
It's you can get it on your computer now. Actually,
Really?
they just released it for PC,
Ooh.
like I think a few weeks ago. I'm
That would
assuming
work
it's
better
on
for me
Steam.
because that would work better for me because I don't have an awful lot of room left on my PS4.
Yeah, but I was thinking of cosplaying as Ren,
Mm-hmm.
the girl character, which it's very simple. But like since I first started the game, I was like, I want this as a normal outfit. It's so cute, her outfit. And I have an idea for it, but I'm not sure on it yet. So she's like still like maybe. After that, I guess the ones I'm working on would be those. So I guess that's kind of the first and second question. And then at the third is me and Distract.
2018, so somebody that you're kind of like thinking about, but you're not
Oh,
sure.
thinking about. I'm trying to think. We have like a couple that we plan on doing, just not sure when we're doing them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few costumes I have that are on like my cosplay like wish list that I don't think I'll ever get to do. Like, I still really want to be Inori from Guilty Gear, or Guilty Crown. Sorry. She has this like red outfit that's kind of revealing, but it looks like a koi fish. And since the moment I saw it, I was like, this is just so beautiful. So that's like something I would want to be, but I still probably don't know if I'll ever actually do. Type thing. In 2018, I think we're kind of thinking of doing maybe a Lord of the Rings group.
Very nice. We'll need to keep an eye out for that.
Yeah.
So
I want to be Frodo so badly.
my final question for you is, what advice would you give a new cosplayer who would like to cosplay but doesn't know exactly where to start?
If you're new and you don't really know what your skill level is yet, I would say pick a character from something you like. You know, that's not too difficult. Like maybe someone who maybe you could get the pieces at your local store, like and I'll use Ash from Pokemon as an example, or maybe Misty. Like those are a good like first costume if you don't know how to do much yet, because the wigs are generally pretty easy if you want to do a wig, and you can find those online. Misty, you can pretty much almost buy everything at a mall or store or anything. So like those are good costumes to maybe start out with. They're not going to be obviously your flashiest ones, but they're good to start out with if you don't know what to do yet. Something nice and simple like that, and people are going to like it anyway. People are always happy to see those kind of costumes.
Definitely. So, before we completely wrap up, guys, I am going to say if for some strange reason you want to see more from me, you can catch up with me on this wonderful website called iGameOnline.net, where we do have a Facebook and a YouTube account, so you can catch up on them even more. Whereas on iGame we have multiple other shows happening. We have our tabletop session of Lord of the Rings is Merritt, so you can catch up with what's going on with Dylan Trask, Zabi, Estelle and Theo, and hopefully in 2018 there'll be more happening with Merritt. Better keep an eye out for that, guys. But if Merritt isn't really your thing, if you're not a Lord of the Rings fan, you're more into something like Dragonlance, we have a live session that goes on every Friday at the moment. We are on a little bit of a hiatus for Christmas, so keep an eye out for the Dragonlance. We also have a secondary show called Call of Cthulhu, which will hopefully be coming sometime in 2018. So catch up with what's happening in there. If, however, you want more cosplay stuff, you can catch up with the rest of our cosplayers on iGame and online with the Any UK cosplayers, which is Covey Kicks, Alpha Betty and Little Rascal. And you can see what's happening with them, what cons they're going to, and who they're interacting with and what cosplays they're making. However, if you just want more cosplay stuff on this channel, just check out the other interviews with people that I've done. There should be a playlist somewhere. Also, don't forget to give me and Chocobo a thumbs up, because we love our thumbs. And subscribe to the channel, because there will be plenty more cosplay interviews coming, as well as plenty more gaming videos. And if for some strange reason you have a question for me or Chocobutt, there is a, I think there's a comment section like down there. Do you see the comment section? Just down there. And both myself or Chocobutt will do our very best to answer any questions you might have. But in saying that, if you have a question that you don't necessarily feel confident about putting in the comment section of a YouTube channel, Choco is going to give us some lovely links that will be in the description of this video, where you can contact her privately and ask, what do I do when it comes to this? So Choco, where can we get a hold of you if we have any further questions?
So I live with my phone, so I'm constantly online. If you ever need to talk to me, I'm pretty quick to answer. My Facebook is just Chocobobutt. Like, you type that in, and pretty sure I'm the first thing that pops up. On Instagram, I lost my Chocobo account. I was hacked by Russians and had to remake it. So my name on that is Chocobobutt Cosplay. So I lost the plain Chocobobutt, so it's Chocobobutt Cosplay on Instagram.
Okay.
And I will answer on both.
So there you go, guys. There's a few links to go and follow Chocobutt on. Please do go along and support her and see what kind of things she's up to and what she's doing. And also there's links for D-Strat on his interview. So go and
since he was
check
mentioned
him
a
out.
lot.
Yeah, since he was mentioned. So go and check him out as well. And in the meantime, guys, this has been Inside Cosplay. Chocobutt has been Chocobutt. I've been Jai452. And we'll be back with another interview really soon. Bye, guys.
Bye.